Hello and welcome. My name is Chris, and I'm the owner and founder of the Children's Wear Design Academy. Thanks for joining me. We're going to be talking about how to connect with a sewing factory, what they need from you, how to communicate with them, and most of all, how to set up your purchase order and how to pay them. This is going to be a quick video. Later, we'll dive much more deeply into the details of how to do each one of these steps. So today we're going to cover 5 different areas. Our first area is how to connect with a factory. And although we do have a list of favorite factories that we like to work with, we do have certain criteria that we need to use before we pass out that information. It's not something that's going to cost you an arm and a leg to get the information. It's how to go about it so that you are received in a good light with the manufacturer. So, many different ways. Obviously, if you have their contact information, feel free to email them. Send them an introduction on who you are, what you make, and why you need them. You can also connect with sewing factories on Instagram. Do a search and you'll come up with, a handful of factories. We're talking about domestic factories primarily, made in USA products. For overseas products, we can get into that later. You can locate factories on LinkedIn, Facebook, and then eventually connect with them on Zoom. There are some basic steps, and that is sending an intro email. Make sure you can connect with them either on a Zoom call or on FaceTime right after that. Things you want to ask for. Make sure you ask them for their terms of business, how they operate, what their payments are like, and what they accept. You can also request, and this is a big one, request the inventory of their machines and their capabilities. If they're making tents or tarps, this is not going to be, more than likely, a place where you need to follow up with, especially if you're making clothing. The factory space is probably a good idea to get like a tour if they have one up on their website, or when you connect with them via FaceTime, ask them to show you their space so you can look at the different factory processes, like where they do quality control. What does their cutting and sewing area look like? What does their shipping and their tag, bag, and fold area look like? So all of this is going to be highly important. And please don't forget, ask for references. If there are major brands who are working with them, you want to know who they are and maybe even follow up with them to get additional references. So now you're ready to request a quote from your manufacturer. You've chosen this particular factory to do your manufacturing. They have the space you need, they have the machines and the capability, they're what you want if it's made in USA, and they're going to expect you to provide them with this basic information. You need a tech pack. A tech pack is typically a 5 or 6 page or more Excel spreadsheet with your illustrations, your point of measurements, your costing information, your supplier information, your grade rules. All of these need to go into a tech pack. Be sure you send a corresponding sample garment. So they're looking at their tech pack and they're looking at your garment and they can put 2 and 2 together and do a review. You also want to know what their minimum quantity is for a first order. Is it 200 units? Is it 5,000 units? And will they negotiate that with you? The other thing that you need to make sure you're providing them is with a digital CAD pattern done in typically Gerber software. It could be PAD, it could be Lectra, it could be Optitex. But these are all compatible software programs that factories will use to download and print your markers. So they're going to need that to see what all of this looks like. And maybe if you're missing anything, you want to follow up in the same vein with your proposal or your contract, which really is a purchase order and cutting instructions. We call it a purchase order cut sheet of what you want. You need to make sure you provide the style number, the quantity, the colors, how many sizes, and how many units per size. The agreed upon price needs to be on there as well, and your expected delivery date. Again, these are all somewhat negotiable before anybody signs a document. So make sure you have that. And then last but not least is make sure you get the owner or the factory manager to sign the contract, send you a signed copy. You send them your signed copy, and you're off and running. There are actually many other steps in between, but again, we'll go through all of those in another video. So if you don't have a production cut sheet, you're going to need to either create one, or we'd be happy to send you a typical template for a cut sheet. And you need to make sure on that cut sheet that it contains everything that the manufacturer needs. State your date and the terms, when you expect to have your items finished, the style number, everything that goes into producing this garment. You're also going to make sure that you want a cost per item, and again, swatches on the bottom. Now, sometimes these swatches can be uh, dropped in electronically in a tech pack sheet. So they've got a photo of what that looks like. But at some point before you start, they're going to want to see the exact fabric that you're going to be working with. So make sure that they have that too. The next step is 8 weeks from the day or 12 weeks from the day you agree to have this manufacturer make your product. Most of them are going to require a 50% deposit up front. Now, you can negotiate that too. If you want to do 30% and they're okay with that, and they've checked your references, that might be a possibility. But please, 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 never give 100%. Ever. It's like hiring a painter or even a house builder. You may never see that deposit again if you give them 100% upfront. So protect yourself and make sure that you're following these guidelines as you move forward. You never want to send a bank check. Make sure that you use a third party, a secure online system. You can use a letter of credit. I mean, banks speak to each other. This is something that you can easily arrange. And again, always make sure that you are paying a portion, but never 100%. You can make that payment arrangement with the factory. And then when your production is finished and you've accepted and approved and signed off on the last bit of production. You've actually seen a garment that came from your production run. It is only until then, or possibly soon after that, depending on where your factory is located, receive your goods, inspect them, make sure they're manufactured according to your specifications, and then you send the final payment to your manufacturer. If all goes well, you rinse and repeat. And this is a simple way to handle manufacturing your sewn product. Thanks for listening. Please join me for additional tutorials from the Children's Wear Design Academy. This is Chris. Have a great day.